And hello again, Internet. Take 3. Got sound this time. So yeah, we are off to a great start today at my end-of-year review. Woohoo! So yeah, let's go ahead and get this started again. I'll explain. The first time through, I forgot to turn the radio off in the game. So I had the licensed music playing, which is something I really did not want to have happen. Because, of course, being a video game like this has licensed music, YouTube would copyright strike it. Now, previous years, I've done my little retro top 10 list, which I am doing again this year. But as part of that list, I was highlighting a game that I particularly liked of the year. Something that was a bit unknown, and I wanted to showcase a bit. This year, however, I'm doing something different. This year, I'm doing more of a warning. Do not buy this game, The Crew 2. We'll get into why after I have my list. But the thing is, this game basically flew under the radar of all of these, especially the higher end critics and the people who would give the almost biggest disappointments of the year. They all missed this one, but we'll get into it. Definitely going to get into it. At any rate, let's go ahead and get this started here, and we will talk about my particular top list. Synchronizing content, yeah, because I canceled out before. We will talk about my particular top 10 list, and like previous years, oh, come on, synchronize already. Daily contracts. Like previous years, I'm doing a list of top 10 PC games that I have played. Most of them I've beaten. There's one exception on the list this year, and we'll get to that, and we'll get to why. And I'm limiting it to PC, like previous years, because... Hold on, I'm distracted by the video game again because it dumped me into the fucking house. I don't want to be in... you know what? I bet I can just exit the house if I do this. Where's the exit button? There we go! Haha! You can leave the house. And I'm going to drive across the country, at least partway, to my other one. Set the waypoint and let's drive. I'm doing my top 10 PC games 20 years ago. That gives myself enough time to have played through them. Some of them anyway. And I'm not doing the console games because, number one, I haven't really played all of the console games of that era, or at least not even a lot of the classics. Number two, it just adds too many games to the list. Now, some of you who are watching the stream live, you're going to be hearing some of the repeats. I apologize for that. I did have to redo it because you can hear no music now, no radio. That's much preferable over what I had before. I am sorry. And I've already missed my turn. Awesome. You also notice that the graphics really blow out here when you go from light to dark, dark to light. I don't hate that, but it does make it really hard to see. So let's get this list started again. I do apologize. But YouTube, archives, and the content ID system, which is full of bugs. There will be a lot of ranting in this video. A lot. That's one of the purposes of it this year. So be expecting that. Now, again, it's a top 10 list. And as usual with these top 10 lists, when you get down to the bottom of the list, you start getting into stuff that probably doesn't need to be there, or you're reaching down and stretching to things that are mediocre at best, and that's kind of true this time out. Except that I still actually did enjoy all of these games to a degree, and they're still top games. I mean, there are far worse games that have come out this year. 1998, that is, 20 years ago. So, don't think that just because it's down at the bottom of the list, I really had to stretch and reach and squeeze to get something in. No, these are my top games. And the top 10 goes to Heretic II, a game that I first finished thanks to this show, even though I'd actually gotten almost all the way through it, apparently, beforehand. But This game, Heretic II, is the 4th game in the Serpent Riders trilogy. Wrap your head around that one. Yeah, it's actually not technically part of the trilogy. It doesn't have any of the Serpent Riders in it. It's more of a sequel directly to the first game, Heretic, where you play as the hero from the first game on the world of the first game, whereas the other two in the trilogy took place on different worlds with different characters. So, the events of Hexen and Hexen II... Okay, I mean, Hexen was already a sequel to Heretic. I don't know why you needed a sequel to the sequel. Bad naming convention aside, Heretic II was actually a fairly fun game. It showed what happened to the world, a bit of the aftermath of Despairal's reign on the place. And we got to see some new parts of the world, some new content. Had a bit of fun with things. Main part about it, though, was the... Where is it? The staff combat. Now, this is basically a third-person shooter. It didn't really have the puzzle elements like Heretic and Heretic II, or excuse me, like Hexen and Hexen II did, because Heretic itself did, and Heretic was effectively Doom with a fantasy skin on it, which is one of the reasons I haven't actually played it on the show, because it's a little too commonplace in my opinion. It probably isn't. There's probably a lot of people who never heard of it, but to me it was just so ambiguous. It's so much like Doom. It's just out there. Maybe I'll get around to it at some point. And Heretic 2 took place directly after that, and it's kind of followed the same style, with the exception of, as I said, it's a third-person shooter, but it focuses heavily on that melee combat. Now, there is shooting in it. You have the various magic spells and such, but it really does seem like they focused on the staff, possibly because of games like Jedi Knight, where the third-person shooter with heavy melee elements was kind of starting to get popular at the time. And there was a deathmatch mode, I remember, that involved effectively being an arena where you fought other people who, damn it, one-on-one with the staff. You would jump out, get the staff. The people else who were waiting were watching from the stands, and that was actually a lot of fun. I remember doing it a couple times and really enjoying it. Now, I didn't do it a whole lot. I definitely did more on other shooters at the time, but that was my go-to game mode for Heretic 2. I truly enjoyed that. Had a lot of fun doing it. As for the game itself, the story wasn't great. The shooting in it wasn't fantastic. And it didn't entirely keep my interest, to the point where I had almost beaten the game and wandered off because I just didn't care anymore. And that's not a good sign of a game. Where is this thing? Like, I'm practically on top of it. Why can't I see it? This is frustrating. It's a box out here somewhere, and I literally can't see it. I mean, look at it. This thing's going nuts. I'm distracted right now because of this game. I apologize. I've lost track of... I have not lost track of my... There it is. I have not lost track of my list. Okay, can you get the fucking photo op off the screen so I can open the box? Because, you know, of course they use the same fucking button. Hello? Box! Are you fucking kidding? I can't open the box? There we go! Son of a bitch! Alright, 2 gold parts. That was really annoying, and I apologize for that. Wow, this game. You see why I say don't buy this fucking game. Okay, so Heretic 2. Yeah, I got bored with the story and just wandered off with it. So I had to force myself to finish playing it for the stream, which is why it's not higher on the list, even though I do love Raven Software and I like a lot of their games. I was very happy to play this one back in the day. It just didn't do it for me all the way. Still, it does deserve a spot on the list because there are far worse games. Number 9. Now this is a game that I've had for a while and wanted to do for the show. Sin. That's stylized with a capital S, capital N. And it's available on GOG. It's not really available on Steam. We'll talk about that, what happened there. But this is a shooter based in the Quake II engine, which is a lot more colorful. And I really appreciated that back in the day, because all the games were going brown and gray, especially at the time. And it was really refreshing seeing a game that remembered that colors existed. Especially one in the Quake II engine, because that is a very smooth engine, fun for doing shooting games in. Now, the story of Sin isn't particularly amazing. There's some rushed stuff in it, but you've seen me enjoy mediocre games anyway. That's not a problem. That's not going to stop me from playing them. I would have done it on the show a lot sooner, honestly, except for the fact that despite having the discs for it and the expansion pack, they won't install anymore on Windows 10. The just installer refuses to function because it's a 16-bit installer and Windows won't run it anymore. Fortunately, the game is available on GOG in the uncensored version, and the version on GOG does come with the expansion Wages of Sin, so if you're going to buy it, I absolutely recommend buying it there. Steam kind of has the game, but kind of doesn't. In order to pick it up on Steam, you have to buy, I believe it's called Sin Emergence, which is the sequel, except that game was done during the craze of episodic content, where they figured they could piecemeal out the game, sell it in cheaper parts, and that would help them fund the future parts of the game, which, you know, isn't a terrible idea. Episodic content, in all honesty, in video games has been done since, I think, the 80s, to be entirely honest. The early shareware stuff was definitely episodic content, which is comments I was making at the time of when people were saying, oh, this great new idea. No, it isn't. One of the downsides of the episodic content is, well, what happened with Sin. It didn't sell well enough, so the company decided they just weren't going to bother finishing it. Which meant that people who did buy the game and weren't interested in completing it will only ever have the incomplete product. And I really don't like that. I am not a fan of selling incomplete work. Here we are in the days of early access. Yeah, I know. This problem is never, ever going away. In fact, the game I'm playing right now can qualify. We'll get into that one. Oh, God, we'll get into that. But yeah, Sin itself, it actually is a pretty decent game. The shooting combat feels really good. The story is nothing to write home about. You're not going to win any awards for it. And for those who remember, a little interesting tidbit of it, this is a game that has an anime to it. Well, I say anime in kind of air quotes because the actual anime was licensed and, well, not licensed, but basically commissioned by one of the American companies who was doing the translations at the time, ADV. And this isn't the first time where... Was this a gold box? Oh, wow. I have not seen a gold box in a while. It's a Christmas event right now that these boxes give way more gear than normal. In fact, I should honestly be using a different car for it. So... yeah, so they commissioned, and it's weird to call it an anime, because like I said, it was an American studio that really commissioned it. They commissioned an anime for it. I do have it, but I have not actually watched it yet. Silly me. I really ought to do that at some point. I'm just going through these and seeing what would be acceptable to buy or to put on. Details. Collector. Yeah, I'll keep the collector going right now. Extra bump, rear drag. Skilled, shifty, ventilated. Increase my loot. Ooh, 2 options here. Okay, so that's increased my gear a bit. Let's get these things to stop flashing me, please. Oh, there's another one. Ooh, that's actually better. Actually, wait, I think the other one increased the gear. The loot quality. Let's increase the quality for right now. Yeah, I know. I'm taking a little bit of time. I'm stopping to deal with the game on hand. Yeah, loot quality. Okay. There, loot. I've done that and back on. So yeah, there's the anime. I haven't seen it. The game itself, I actually do plan on running it this year. I did recently pick it up on GOG. So you guys will hopefully be able to see Sin at some point in the coming year. Number 8. We're still on part of the list where I was before because, you know, I'm stupid. Carmageddon II, Carpocalypse Now. Now, Carmageddon 2 used to be higher up on my list here, but I'm kind of a fickle person, and I took a look at the list again and went, you know, as much as I do enjoy this game, and I really do, I don't think it was quite the classic that a lot of the higher-ups on the list are, so I had to knock it down a little bit. Now, if you remember my first video, Carmageddon is one of my favorite series. I got the demo of it and just latched on to the open world driving and the way that you could win races several different ways. You could actually race through the stuff, and really, because of the open world, you could hit the checkpoints any way you could, although generally there was the set path to go to that was supposed to be the fastest, and it usually was. You could just destroy all of your opponents so that none of them could finish the race, although that generally took so long the race could have been over if any of them had ever done it. Or just you could kill every pedestrian on the map, and that was actually quite the challenge to do that one. Now the same holds true for Carmageddon 2, kind of. Carmageddon 2 actually improved upon the game, the concept itself. It made the progression much more intuitive than how it was in the first Carmageddon. You see, the first Carmageddon game, there was... oh, what's the word for it? You had to play a level over and... oh, grinding, there you go. You had to play the level over and over to get a certain score to unlock the higher up levels. And what you basically do is you'd play each of the levels at least once, then you'd find the one level that would let you get the highest score, and you would just sit there and grind that until you weren't able to anymore, and then you'd find the next one on the list and do the same too. Not a particularly good progression system. Now, Carmageddon 2 did it so that you had the 3 races and then a championship type thing, a special challenge event, something that was new and different, and that was a lot of fun. Sometimes you had to kind of figure out the challenge of how to beat those, which generally was go find the right power-up and use it. But it did at least provide some dynamics to the game. It also improved the damage, kind of. If you hit cars just right, you could basically split them in half and instant-kill them. It was actually really lame. It really was. But, yeah... it was back in the day. It was a lot of fun. Carmageddon 2 holds a special place in my heart. It's the one that I played the most. But, yeah, I'll admit it isn't the best of them. Well, not anymore, anyway. And it definitely doesn't deserve to be any higher on this list, despite how much endless fun I had with it. And now we're getting to the part of the list that I didn't do in the previous video. Yay! New content for all you guys who are sitting out there going, ah, just tell me the others already. I've heard this before! And I will also say that anyone who knows me will not be surprised by the very top of this list, just like last year. Number 7, Unreal. Yeah, that sounds like it's really low down on the list. Hey, Atir! Oh, we're going to get into this. Oh, we're definitely going to get into the crew too, don't you worry. But, yeah. Number 7, Unreal. Like I said, it sounds weird to have Unreal so far down on the list. You'd think that such a game that was considered a classic would be higher up, and it is a good game to a degree. Again, it's one that for the first time I beat, I did on this show. Alright, it's here. Well, I'll see you later. You can always watch the video on post on YouTube. Now that I've had to redo it and turn the music off so I can actually put it on YouTube. Grumble, grumble. Anyway, it's... And there are some fantastic scenes in Unreal. This is another one where, you know, the company, in this case I actually know the company, Epic. I think Ritual was the one who did Sin. Don't quote me on that. But Epic remembered that colors exist. So Unreal was a much more vibrant world. You have to remember, this is a real competitor to Quake and Quake 2. And it did at least showcase that you could do something different. Whereas Quake 1 and Quake 2 focused on interior environments and the grim, muddy colors of those games. Unreal let you explore the outside, let you see this alien world, and thematically, I love it. When you start getting into the nuts and bolts of the game, however, some of the weapons are a lot more useful than others. A lot of the weapons just kind of exist. They're all fairly unique, at least, even at the time, and I do appreciate unique weapons. And they are all effective in their own right, but you're going to end up favoring a few, which is true of every game. I know I have my shotgun preference, but Unreal's just seemed like a real special mixed bag to me. Not only that, the level design was not my particular favorite. I remember being frustrated by a lot of the levels, especially the way a lot of them just looked too damn similar. And it is another game. Well, there went another player, and they're gone now. It is another game where I had played most of it before and had gotten very close to the end and just didn't have the drive to finish it. It didn't inspire me to keep playing. That is why it's this low on the list, and sharing ground with other games like that. In fact, originally, this one and Sin were swapped. This was actually originally number 9 on my list because of that. But in the end, I decided, no, this game does have a more lasting legacy. And when this game was good, when Sin was good, that original Scar introduction was fantastic. So yeah, this game deserved a bit more credit. I still don't think I'll play it again. I might do the sequel, or I mean, I'm going to have to do the expansion at some point. But it's not one that I'm chomping at the bits to do. Hate to say it. Number 6. The Need for Speed 3. Hot Pursuit. Oh, now we're getting into some of my good stuff, really good stuff on this list. You see, Need for Speed, the first one, wasn't a great game. We actually went through a little bit of it on this show here. It was meant to be more realistic and less arcadey, and part of that was including police, which was a lot of fun to have the police out there chasing you down. That was a cool idea. It was a cool thing to do. I didn't like the actual driving mechanics of it because you were pretty prone to spinning out in the first game and spinning your tires and such. Whereas when you got to the second game, they decided to make it more of an arcadey racing game. And at the time, the Need for Speed series just was taking over the world. I mean, there was the Test Run series as well, or Test Drive, pardon me. But it really was basically down to those two games if you wanted racing. And in my opinion, Need for Speed had the edge because it was letting you play all these wonderful supercars and even the hypercars of the time. And when they brought the police back for Need for Speed 3 and made that a focus, especially the point where you could play as the police to chase people down, oh, that was such a wonderful new dynamic. I mean, you could still play the races like they were regular races. You didn't have to have the police involved. But that police chase aspect makes for much better, more dynamic, more interesting driving games, in my opinion, than simply racing. Now, I'm probably not the purist on this. And there are other people who would say, no, if it's a driving game, it has to be about the race. It's all about you and your skill and your machine against the other player. But I prefer more the head game type stuff. I prefer, well, being able to try to chase someone down, to set up traps and the like, to try to stop them or to try to get away. That's always been a bit more fun. It's, you know, like, it's like tag with supercars. How can you not love it? Now, one thing that actually knocks it a little bit down the list for me is the fact that Need for Speed 4 completely obsoleted 3. Because Need for Speed 4 was effectively built upon Need for Speed 3, and they just improved almost every aspect. More cars, more maps, more content, more game modes, but it still had almost everything 3 had in it. So, still, 3 held a place in my heart just because I love that, you know, it's the whole return to form on the third game. It's just something that the second game left out, but no, going back to the police was great, and I loved it. And I would love to see more games, racing games, that are about that more head-to-head against each other competition than about simply driving from point A to point B. That's why I like Carmageddon so much, because there's more to do than just drive. Number 5, Shogo Mobile Armor Division. Now, this is one that I have not done on the show yet, but I did play this back in the day, and I actually remember when I was going to college, I went to a gaming, specific gaming curriculum. That's how I have a degree in game design and game programming. That one of the students I saw there, and this is well after Shogo was released. I mean, this is already many, many years later. Remember going to one of these conferences that they had there, and I looked over someone on a laptop, and he was sitting there playing Shogo, of all games. Yeah, Shogo Mobile Armor Division was done surprisingly, at least, you know, like the same engine, I believe, that Blood 2 was in. And while Blood 2 was just a horrible mess that I honestly at some points forget that I've even played, Shogo was this fantastic game that combined both shooter elements, FPS, I believe it was a first-person shooter, it might have been third-person, but I think it was first-person, and giant robot combat. Yes, this is one of those wonderful anime-inspired games in the 90s, which if those of you don't remember, like, you think anime is big now, with especially the fact that you can get 0-day streaming official sites of the anime with full sub translations ready to go for you. You are so spoiled. Back in the 90s, anime was exploding in the late 90s. But this is, you know, before the real rise of the internet and the streaming and the fan subs, and the only real way you knew which ones you want to get was to look at the box covers. Oh, it was a wonderful and terrible time because a lot of the companies were just shotgunning the most useless crap, which is why anime had this reputation of being, you know, violent or screamy or whatever other types there were, just because those were the animes that were getting picked up, because those are the animes that were selling. At any rate, giant robots was one of those wonderful themes of anime that still kind of exists to this day. Gundam, you know, Evangelion, Voltron, you name it. Shogo was a game inspired by that. And, yeah, it worked. It's, again, not the greatest, especially when you have two types of games wrapped into one. It's kind of like having a first-person shooter where you're playing between two different characters with radically different play styles. For example, if you have one who's a shooter and one who's stealthy. And neither side feels like it's really that entirely finished. I am just driving terribly right now. That is one of the feelings that Shogo does have to it. Now, you do have to remember also, I haven't actually played Shogo in quite a while. It left a very fond impression on me. And at some point, maybe not this year, but at some point, it might be one that I do for the show again in one of my replays when I'm running out of time. Assuming I can get it to run again. But it's one of those kind of underrated gems in my opinion. People who remember this game tend to remember it very fondly. And I am one of those. That's why it's as high on my list as it is. I honestly can't tell you anything about the story anymore because I don't remember it. I do remember that the mech combat wasn't as engaging as it could have been, especially since games like MechWarrior 2 had already been out, and I really enjoyed that. But for what it was, and for the anime-inspired game, the nice little uniqueness of it, it's a treat. It's a gem, and I totally recommend it. So we're getting up to the top part of the list now. We have now reached, I told you guys at the beginning, that there was one game on my list that I had not actually finished. We've actually gotten to it here. Number 4 is StarCraft. Now, I have played a fair bit of it. I played a good deal of the campaign, but me and RTS games tend not to mesh very well. However, I can absolutely see why StarCraft is a classic. And it is. And I have the remastered version. And I have played, again, a little bit of it. Not as much as I should. I really do need to finish this game one of these days. It will not be on stream. Because of how my playstyle is. This is one of the reasons I say RTS and I don't mesh. It would take forever to stream it. Because, like, every day would only be 1 or 2 levels. Because I take forever building. Not really how you're supposed to play those games. But everyone kind of knows StarCraft. It's practically the template to which all other RTS games are compared. You have the 3 races inspired by Warhammer 40k, and yes, they were inspired by Warhammer 40k. Initially, the game was apparently going to be a Warhammer 40k game, and either the license got pulled or they couldn't get the license at some rate. Something happened. They had to switch it to their own. So, yes, if the Zerg look like Tyranids, if the Protoss look like Eldar, and if the Terrans look like Space Marines, there's a reason for it. And yet you do have, and unlike a lot of RTSs ahead before it, well, unlike Warcraft 2 at least, Command & Conquer did have the unique armies. That was one of the big other competitors at the time. But Warcraft, or StarCraft, the 3 races were all unique, distinct, different, had their own playstyle, and did have a little bit of rock, paper, scissors to them. Now that I don't actually like, rock, paper, scissoring the things. Now mind you, Blizzard has balanced this game almost for a decade after its release, and now that we have the remastered edition, I'm sure they've been balancing it even more. So that, in theory, each of the 3 races is a balance to each other. Like, if everything was equal, you could assume that you'd have about a 50% win rate playing any race against any of the others, and that's honestly how it should be. And that can be a bit difficult as well with the 3 different dynamically different, drastically different play styles. But they can pull it off. I am sure of that. I have no idea, so my map is gone, so it's nothing I hate about this game. I'm already #1 on all the lists. Fuck off. Oh my, you see, look at this. Shut the fuck up, you stupid NPC. I've already beaten this game. Oh my god. Why? God, this game sucks. This game really sucks. Okay, let's get back to the list. Yeah, the story mode in StarCraft, again, what I played of it and what I know of it, it did kind of venture out a bit, and there we go. I have now driven literally coast to coast in the last hour of talking. Well, half an hour of talking. Whew. I'm gonna switch cars and do it again. Let's switch. Oh, no, I'm not gonna do that one. Oh, let's go in a hypercar this time instead of just a street car. And I'm going to drive back. No, I'm going to drive somewhere different this time. Let's go to... Let's drive somewhere different. Let's drive to the same damn place. Oh, what am I looking for? I'm looking for one of the... Oh, is it over here? So I'm looking for one of these, basically. There. Oh, it's too close. See, unfortunately, this one is nearby. And the others are... Yeah, well, whatever. Let's go there. Won't take that long to get there. But yeah, StarCraft II, the story of it is good. What I played of it and what I know of it, a lot of the characters, especially the fact that it's characters like Kerrigan became corrupted, became the Queen of Blades. It's it's a classic. It's been a lot of people's hearts. It's some people's favorite game to this day. They did finally make the sequel, which I haven't, still haven't played much of, for the same reasons, because I'm not big on RTS, but I do really want to get into them some more. Yeah. StarCraft. Great game. Number 3. Baldur's Gate. Yeah, that's kind of an odd choice to put this high on the list, but I really like what they did with this game. It was the first of the D&D games, Dungeons & Dragons, and this one was based on, I believe, 2nd edition? Yeah, this one was a 2nd edition game. I just have to remember if it used THAC0 or the other D20 system. No, it was 2nd edition, yeah. It was the first of the D&D games that not only used the rules well and felt really good doing it, but really worked on a computer. A lot of the other D&D games tried beforehand, and none of them ever felt right to me. Mind you, there is stuff like Pools of Radiance and all that, but Baldur's Gate just worked. And it's kind of one of these top-down isometric RPGs. And again, words. 2nd edition is the version of Dungeons & Dragons that I played the most of. So it's the one that has a fondness in my heart. And of course, anybody who's played most of the other versions looks at 2nd edition and went, oh my god, what a mess that was. But you gotta realize, that one was an evolution of the original. They didn't rebuild it from the ground up, which is what they had to do for 3rd edition, and 4th edition, and 5th edition. That's why they all seem radically different. Baldur's Gate story, and one of my friends doesn't like it because it's one of the games where if your protagonist dies, it's game over. You can't revive him, you can't do anything like that, whereas you can revive some of your other party members sometimes if the conditions are right, although there are times when they can just be obliterated with no chance to bring them back. It also has a nice little feature where if you load a game shortly before a fight, the fight can get stronger to compensate for, quote, cheating, unquote. Now, I like the story of it. I love some of the characters. Minsk and Boo will forever have a place in my heart. Boo, the giant miniature space hamster, who is just an ordinary hamster, but Minsk believes that he is more than he is. Great character. There are flaws in the game. Absolutely. As much as I said, it does play as D&D and it kind of works as D&D. One of the major flaws of 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons are your daily limitations. You're really not supposed to get into that many combats every day. Video games, however, tend to have a lot of combat. So one of the things you're going to end up doing in Baldur's Gate is resting frequently in the dungeons. Now, those of you who remember my Descent to Undermountain playthrough will remember my resting frequently as well, which eventually stopped working. Of course, in that game, I didn't really use my magic that much. But yeah, like any spell casting in your party, you're only really meant to go for a couple encounters. So that was one of the big issues of the game, which, as I said, you kind of fixed it by just resting in the middle of the dungeon, and you do that frequently. Another problem that it had is, regarding the spellcasters and such, basically some things were more overpowered than others. Now, in 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, it depended on what spells were available in the game. And I think in Baldur's Gate, your really best stuff were going to be the summon companion stuff. Because you can just sit there and summon a bunch of enemies or a bunch of animal companions to deal damage for you. And especially the higher level ones, you could really stack these, and that's how you would deal with most of the bosses and such. Is that someone flying around over here? Nope, it's in a car. Yes, there are other players in this game, and we'll get to that in a bit. Oh, Baldur's Gate, what was I going to say about it? Okay, another thing is, because your main character you had to keep alive at almost all costs, effectively just keep re-rolling until you have either a really good warrior or a paladin who could do lay hands, as well as being a warrior. Now, paladins have problems in 2nd edition. They're kind of amazing, and they're kind of crap because they limit your magic items and all that you can use and limit your wealth. So I would recommend just going as a warrior. You want to be as much of a beef tank as possible. However, in Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, there's this dynamic you have where spellcasters start really weak because they just do not have a library of spells, and they can only cast a real handful a day, and they have to rest. So it's like you're good for about 3 rounds of combat, and then you're hitting people on the head with a stick. Not very effective. Whereas the warriors are out there, oh, I have all these hit points, I have a sword, I can take anything. Once you get to about mid-level, that starts to swap. The spellcasters get a larger and larger library of spells and start having some that just basically flat out nullify the non-spellcasters. You'll get stuff like Stone Skin, which means that they take several hits without taking any damage. They can do magic missiles, they can do fireballs, they can take out groups, whereas your melee characters don't really have as much magic resistance either, and tend to get stuff like Charmed and such happen to them a lot, and end up just not being very effective anymore. But they at least still have hit points. So yeah, game is flawed, but as I said, it really was the first Dungeons & Dragons video game that felt good as a video game and as Dungeons & Dragons. Descent to Undermountain, if it had actually been in a better engine, probably would have been one to do it instead. But it is what it is. Number 2, Half-Life. Yes, one of the greatest games of all time is number 2 on my list. And even I will say it is one of the greatest games of all time. Half-Life, if you weren't there, it really revolutionized what first-person shooters were. Because beforehand, things were, and they still were a little bit afterward, you know, it took a while for the effect to really catch on. And there were exceptions beforehand as well. But first-person shooters were definitely much more arcade-centered. And it was individual level based, and power-ups were just littered around, and floating sometimes, just, you know, hovering in spots, just be in the middle of the room or tucked in a corner, all the various enemies. And there were sometimes really light on story, and it was just generally go from one place to the next, kill everything and move on. But Half-Life kind of changed things. Half-Life was, and to this day, is a game where it will... I've never felt so immersed in a game. And I mean it to this day. As many first-person shooters as I've played, none of them made me feel like I was there as much as Half-Life. For the simple fact that the story of Half-Life, when you strip everything else away, you're just trying to get out alive. Everything else that has happened has been, you know, it's happened. The disaster's taken place. The aliens are coming in. All kinds of crap is going on. And you're stuck in the middle of it in this underground base, and you just have to try to get out. And that's Half-Life. And that's what makes it great. The real feature of it is the way... Whoopsie. Is the way that... Details. Is the way that it's... See, I can't word right now. I'm trying to figure the game out. Every level led directly into the next one. And the progression of it was just so beautifully done. There were different feelings throughout the game. Again, there are problems with the game. In particular, the platforming sections are kind of awful. There's just no way around it. The platforming sections in that game, platforming in first-person shooters, but they exist and you can get through them. That's not much of an issue. I don't know why I went to the ace difficulty here when I'm distracted. That is not going to work. I am not going to be able to beat this one. You know, actually, when this game went live, when Crew 2 went live, this race right here, I had #1 on the leaderboard. The pre-release thing that I was part of, because I bought the gold edition, and oh, we'll get into that, I actually managed to reach #1 on this leaderboard to be the best driver. So when this game was live, it was my name on top. Now, I'm definitely not there anymore, but I'm damn proud of that. As you see, I can barely do it anymore just because I'm talking to you guys. But yeah, there's some problems with Half-Life. It does have the sections that kind of drag a bit. Zen! Oh my god, when you get to Zen, it becomes an almost different game, and not a particularly good one, unfortunately. But it's still you know, the giant baby end boss. Yes, that will go down in video game history. That's kind of living in infamy. But the game itself is just this fantastic masterpiece of immersion and level design. the AI in the game, the way it would track you down on more than just sight, how they would, you know, do one of the things that I always talk about the AI needs to do. They would sometimes run away and come back at you. Different enemies would interact with you, with each other. And there are some tropes that it had. Yeah, I'm losing. I'm going to lose because I'm not going to be able to pass this guys at the end here. And it had one of the tropes where, you know, you get partway through the game and you get all of your stuff taken away. Oh, you know, I forgot I had boost. That's what's fucking me up. I forgot I could do that. I completely forgot I had nitro in this game. Anyway, it's been a while since I played. Anyway, yeah. It revolutionized the way the AI worked. Let's set a waypoint again. Oopsie. The way the AI worked, the environment itself, like weapons were put generally in like storage closet areas. This is another game where it had NPCs, friendlies, so it wasn't about killing everyone. And in fact, you could get rewards if you managed to keep these other NPCs alive long enough. And look at the tits. We got tits on the map. Wonderful. See, every game has to have tits in it. You had the NPCs, you get rewards if you kept them alive long enough. It wasn't always making sense, like having the health dispensers on the walls was kind of a cheat to make it more video gamey. But again, the game itself really is quite good. I truly enjoyed it. It's a classic. It revolutionized things. I love the fact that some of the weapons are literally stolen from enemies. Hell, I think one of them is straight up one of the enemy's arms. Another one are a few of the aliens. The bugs that you throw out, I don't know why they don't just bite you. Although one of them, I love the idle animation where you kind of stick your finger close to it and it snaps at it. That's great. Yeah, Half-Life. And that was a game changer. That was almost as important as Doom was to the landscape of video games and first-person shooters. It really can't be overstated just how massive a thing that game really is. If you haven't had a chance to play it, and you know, one of the problems now is there's been so many other, and yeah, you could say technically, technologically, perhaps story-wise, better games made since then. I know someone who would argue Deus Ex is a better game. I know someone who would argue that, I don't know what, Dishonored, you know, stuff like that. I don't know, someone probably argued some of the later Far Cry's are better games, but Half-Life will always be Half-Life. It will always have that place, and nothing that I have played has ever put me in a game like that. That raw feeling of, I have to escape. I have got to find my way out. I have to keep moving forward, however possible, to dig out of this mess. I just want to see daylight. I love Half-Life. And now, a couple honorable mentions. And there's only 2 honorable mentions this time out. One of them is Suikoden. It's a roleplay game, JRPG. The reason it's not on my list, and this is a really good JRPG, I really like it, is because in the United States it was only ever put on PlayStation. It does get an honorable mention list because in Japan, Suikoden was released on PC as well. But I've only had a chance to play the PlayStation version, which I do have on the PlayStation Network as well. I did pick that one up because it's worth it. It's just a really fun roleplay game. I don't know what to say beyond that. If you like JRPGs, and I do, and yeah, there's reasons not to like them. The way they combat the turn-based is, to some would say, kind of boring. But no, I just really like the game. It's one of the better examples. I love the fact that it can port to the sequels. You can do that with it. That's fun. However, again, it was only on PC in Japan, so I really can't recommend it beyond that. There you are. I see you. Yeah, this game, I just crashed a race car into a tree. And I don't mean like into the trunk of the tree, I mean I crashed it into the branches of a tree. That's this game in a nutshell for you. I hope you appreciated that, I really do. Yeah, Suikoden only released in Japan. That's why I can't put it on this, or on PC in Japan. That's why I can't put it higher on the list. But if you get a chance to play it, absolutely do so. It's a classic game. Another one is Starsiege Tribes. And this was a multiplayer game and a massive... It was a first-person shooter. But for its time, it had just large-scale battles. More players than even most games today would do. A lot of good content, huge movement tech. When you got into that game, it was kind of like, in all honesty, the movement tech and all in this, it almost reminds me of Warframe today. Of all the various things you could do. And I think it had the vehicles and all that fun stuff. I think, I'm trying to go off memory, I didn't get a chance to play it that much, unfortunately. I came late to the party, and by the time I showed up, a lot of the servers were already going down. I did play it for what I could. Because, yeah, there's definitely vehicles in it, because it's actually... Starsiege Tribes is based on the Earthsiege games, which were giant robot games again. You know, the large mecha games. So, and this was, you know, more human-based. But you did have a lot of the stuff in it. As far as multiplayer games go back then, this thing was fantastic. It was a real tour de force. And unfortunately, it doesn't really have much of a single-player component that I'm aware of. Like, as far as I know, the single-player was kind of just, if there was any even, would have been basically the multiplayer versus bots. But it deserves a spot on the list for being as big and impressive a multiplayer game as it was back then. And it was great. So we've reached number 1 on the list, finally. Finally. As I've been just kind of tooling around here in this game, driving from place to place, now flying, showing off that I have a helicopter. And yes, this police, the decals on this, I put those on myself. The number there, the NB, that 714597, that number is how much money the SGDQ had at the time. I'm not kidding. That's where I got that number from. But yeah, this is my police chopper, and that logo on the back, that police logo there is one that I made myself for the game. I love it. We'll get into some of that in a bit. But yep, my number 1 spot, my favorite, my top 10 PC game, 1998. That will be no surprise to anybody who knows me or saw last year's list. Fallout 2. Yeah, to me, Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 are basically the same game in my head because I played them back to back so often. But Fallout has such a deep place in my heart. I love the technology of it. I love the story of it. By the technology, I mean the open world aspect. Just the way the developers did it. That you could tackle the game so many different ways. That every time you played through could be a completely different experience. It's just a masterpiece. And what I really love about it is something that every other fucking game in the series has forgotten. Fallout 2 changed the game. It changed things up. You don't have bottle caps anymore. You had sand dollars instead. Because people changed. The time changed. There was the New California, the city that was built, not being built, had been built. The NCR was set up. They had their headquarters. They had their safe city. Your character from the first game, your character in the second one is, I believe, the Chosen One, who was a descendant of the Vault Dweller after he went off and made his own little settlement. So the game had more to it straight from the beginning. All of these elements that Fallout 3 forgot, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel forgot, Fallout Tactics forgot. All of these things took elements from the first game and completely forgot that even by the second game, the world was moving on. And that really shows the difference in creativity between the original developers and the fucking copycats who didn't understand why the games were good. Fallout 2 didn't need to ride on the coattails of Fallout 1. It made its... I mean, it was still Fallout, and it did have a few glorious references, such as you find the vault, that all the water chips that were supposed to go to Vault 13, but didn't make it there, they went to Vault, I think it was 12 instead, in a big shipping mistake. So you found those chips. You found them all. Little touches like that. There's another area where someone just ran into me. Another player just ran into my helicopter. You little shit. There he is down there. Should arrest him. Alright, but yeah, all these little touches. Oh yeah, the one I was talking about. Like Bob the Ghoul was great in the first game that he was in. This one, he sucked in the others he was in, but he was great in this one. It's a wonderful little touch. There was one section where somebody hires you to try to find this treasure. You know, this old treasure that was buried out in the desert that he heard about many, many years ago. And you go out there and find it. And what you find is a buried Nuka-Cola truck full of... So there's a bunch of bottle caps in it. Which, yeah, back in the old days, when bottle caps were currency, which they wouldn't be anywhere else. They shouldn't have been in DC. They shouldn't have been currency in the other games. Oh, that pisses me off. But yeah, back when those were used as currency, that would have been treasure. They were completely useless by the time you find them in 2. That was glorious. That's what I'm saying. Fallout 2 knew what to do. They knew how to change things. They knew how to innovate, improve, to think about how the world would be changing and evolving through this series. Fallout 2 is the perfect example of why the other games aren't as good. And that actually leads me into a good transition here. Because this game, The Crew 2, is my #1 disappointment of the year. And the only reason why this one is #1 and not Fallout 76 is because I knew from the original announcement of Fallout 76 that it was going to be bad. Yeah, I know the game just got silenced. I know, hold on. I knew that game was going to be bad. Because it was Bethesda. Not only was it Bethesda, but it was Bethesda trying to do something they're not good at doing, multiplayer, not understanding how to do it, the multiplayer, and not understanding why people actually like Fallout. Like, the fact that they got rid of all of the, what was I going to say? The fact they got rid of all the NPCs just proves they have no fucking clue. They are worthless. I'm sorry, Bethesda, you are worthless, and we'll get into that. Oh, because we are entering the rant portion of the day. Oh, God, we are going to enter the rant portion. There's going to be a lot. Okay, there we go. There's a prime example right here of why this game is shit. The Crew 2. Why this is the most disappointing game of the year to me, bar none. You see those players that just disappeared off my map. As I was looking at them, both of them just disappeared. Do you think both of them, at the same time, without being in the map or the menu, because you can tell when that happens, notice how my helicopter has stopped moving. Right now, if another player were to look at my helicopter, it would be transparent, like the motorcycle had been a couple times. That's how you know you're in the menus. Same thing happens here. It would know. They would know. Notice how I kind of faded out and faded back in. You think those two players both at the same time, without being in the menu, warped to another area of the map? No! The game just separated us from each other. The Crew 1 is an MMO, effectively. All of these players on the map, and they're all on the map. You can go to the map. You can hit the map button like this. You can zoom out, and you can see where the players are, and you can warp to them, and you can sit there and drive with them and play with them and have fun with them. Kind of like some of the players here were doing, where they'd see me, and they'd actually race with me for a while. They took that out of this game. They claim it's still there. Oh yeah, they call this still an MMO, but it's not. Because look at this, and this is the thing, they don't even fucking show you this in the game. You can see how many people are in your local area. Where is it? Where is it? Roster, here we go. There are up to 7 people at any one time that you can see. That is it. As you see, I'm down to 1. As far as my game is concerned, there is only one other player playing the Crew 2 right now. That is not true. There are a lot of players playing it right now. But as far as my game is concerned, there's only one. And that one will change. They'll pop in and out randomly. Oh, I hate that. There's something else you may not have noticed about this, but I've been noticing. The day-night cycle is gone. Entirely. They took it out of the game in the most recent patches. In the December content update. Oh no! We'll get into those too! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh, we'll get into those. The December content update, you see, one of the things that had this game, and I believe I mentioned this back in the beta, if I didn't do a recording of it then, I know I was all over the forums about this. One of the problems with the game is that, well, you know how I am with dark games. I have a hard time seeing things in the dark in the games. Well, in this particular game, the dark areas are extra dark, and you have a lot of trouble seeing the things because you have these headlights that don't freaking do anything. They barely illuminated anything in front of you. So on a road like this right now, I couldn't see the road at all because there's no street lights. So this road would be fucking invisible. And even roads with the streetlights were sometimes too hard to see. So their answer, 6 months, 6 fucking months after the game came out, their answer was, we can't fix it, we're just going to remove nighttime. That's Ubisoft for you. We can't fix it, we'll just remove features instead. And The thing is, and it's Ivory Tower, not just Ubisoft, like, I loved the first Crew. It wasn't a good game. It was a stupid game. The physics were kind of awful on it, which led to some absolute hilarity, to the point where I was driving by a city one day and just watched one of the parked cars inside an area that you can't normally go to because the wall is blocked off. There are actually ways into it, kind of. You kind of have to like shoot yourself into it, but you'd get trapped inside because the walls are solid. One of the parked cars in there just started lifting up off the ground like it was being abducted by aliens. It was fucking hilarious. That's the Crew 1. Now, one of the things I really liked about that game is you could get a group of people together, up to 4 people. This is one of those, because you know, you never play games in more or less than 4 people. But you get 4 people together to run in a crew, and you can do races and such as the Crew. Now, and again, it had the day-night cycle and all that fun stuff. And as far as the first expansion, Wild Run, oh, that one was great. The stuff that it added, not so much like the specs, where it added drift, drag, monster trucks. You also had the motorcycles added. Those weren't particularly fantastic. The monster trucks, and the monster trucks in this game are about the same thing, to be entirely honest. They kind of suck. Because they ignore physics. They're very arcade. They're basically this game's version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Yeah, they added those. They weren't great, but one thing they added was the ability to just go to the map and set up your own course. Just set up your own race anywhere on the map. You could drive from one end of the map to the other. You could set waypoints. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. And you get your group together and just drive it. You'd have these nice long races. And there were already long races in the game. And you'd have these nice long races. You could just sit there with your friends. You could chat and drive. And just have a good time. When they did the Calling All Units expansion, which I was excited for because... Whoopsie. I was excited for because... Cops! Police! I told you with Need for Speed 3 that I love doing the police versus player content. And they had that, and it was so fun. Except they broke the long races. You couldn't crew in the races with your friends anymore. They broke it almost entirely. And I'm noticing that I'm getting a lot of lag on the screen. Sorry about that. They broke it entirely. Let's switch cars. It just flat out wouldn't let you guys both join the race anymore. One of you could, but not both of you. Really? I was going to say, you're my highest rally car? No, you are. Another thing to note, like at least I have my driver in this. We'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of the crap. Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of slowdown on the stream here. I hope that hasn't happened the entire time. But yeah, I'm not surprised by that. The more modern games, especially ones that like to use multiple processors, well, you know, OBS and them kind of fight a little bit. But I haven't dropped any frames at least, so that's something. It's just not going to be the best encoding. Yeah, they broke the fact that you can run in with your friends. They actually just straight up broke long runs as well. If you did like one of the country-to-country races, if you were in a race for basically a certain amount of time, and there was any type of police thing around you, it would actually fuck up the thing. And even though you were in your own event, you were in your own race, you'd be invited to do a pursuit. Even if you weren't a cop. And you'd have your waypoint would suddenly be set to the most wanted. And this could happen anytime there was a most wanted anywhere in the fucking country. So whenever anyone got, you know, a wanted level, it would fuck up your free races. Because then it would come back out, or sometimes it would just never come back out properly. And you'd be basically out of your event that you were in the middle of the fucking race for. they also screwed up the day-night cycle entirely. It used to work on the crew. It used to work perfectly. You know, it would start getting dark around, you know, by the time it was 6 o'clock, it was dark, no problem. It would, and get lighter normally. It would all have this nice, smooth transition. But as soon as Calling All Units came out, it would just stay bright, stay bright, stay bright, stay bright. The night went on. It would hit midnight and just boom, full dark. And the screen would go full dark, because as we saw in this one, when you go from light to dark, you have that effect of it kind of blows the thing out. As realistic, like you'd have a little bit of trouble adjusting between light and dark, dark and light. You'd have a little bit of extra bloom and all going from one to the other. Well, that would happen in that game too. And for a while, at midnight, every fucking day at midnight, boom, full dark. So it would screw everything up for a little bit. So they completely destroyed that part of the cycle. Just... there was nothing they could do right. Oh, I swear. And they never fixed it. To this day, those bugs exist in the Crew 1. Because Ivory Tower, they pumped that out the door and that was it. It was time to work on the Crew 2. Oh, we made a mess. We broke the game that people enjoyed. Fuck it. We don't care. This is another problem with the live services too. Because even if you did not have Calling All Units, if you didn't buy the DLC, it still broke your game. Because those are the changes made to the core game. And you can't play the game unless you connect online. And you can't connect online if you don't have the most recent version. So no matter what, whether you had the new version or not, whether you had the new expansion or not, if you liked the Crew 1 and liked doing that content, you're fucked now. Because they broke it and never fixed it. And then there's this game. Oh, the Crew 2. Oh, how am I going to get into this? One thing you've noticed that I've got planes. I had the helicopter. I haven't done any boats, but it has boating as well. That was the big difference between this one and the first one, and I was psyched for it. I was really looking forward to it, especially the fact that you can switch on the fly like you saw me do. Like, I can sit here over the road now and go, I'm going to drive. Hello? Or not, I guess. Boom, and drop off, and I'm driving now. And if I got near water, I could do the same thing. Just straight up, boom, into water. In fact, actually, I think... Nope, nope. I thought for a minute that I had a hovercraft as my water, but nope, hovercraft don't count as water vehicle. It has to be a land vehicle, even though it can go over water as well. If you do the select this way, as you see, it actually takes you off the map and back on. You have to go back on yourself. Well, that's one thing. Yeah, I'm gonna rant about this game for a long time. That is the rest of. It's not even gonna be just about this game. Set waypoint. Remove waypoint. Let's get that off the screen. It's not even going to be about just this game. I'm just going to rant now for the next hour about a lot of stuff that's been involved in the next 45 minutes, about a lot of things that have been pissing me off in video games lately. But, okay, let's get back to this game. I bought this game. I bought the Gold Edition. That includes the Season Pass. That included the Early Access. That included some special features. I was in the beta for this game, which, by the way, was not a beta. I hate when they do that. They call it a beta, but it's just a stress test. And all the bugs that you find, and oh god, we found lots and lots and lots of them. Do you think they fixed them? Do you think they fixed a single one of those bugs? Do you think 6 months later, I could go to the spots where the trees were hovering off the ground and find that the tree is still hovering off the ground? Do you think now, 6 months after the game came out, oh, where was that bridge? It's like, oh, I don't even know where it was anymore, but if I went to this bridge, do you think it would be fixed? That's not it. Let me actually look it up real quick, because I had the screenshots. I'm going to look up a certain bridge from the beta. I want to see if they fixed it. Hey, it's here. I'm currently looking something up, so the game is quiet and frozen on the map right now. I apologize. But there is something I need to see. Pictures. You play, where are you? There you go. Where's the map? Okay, so that's got to be it. So let's take a look at my map and try to find this area. It was... I have no idea where this is on this map because it was zoomed in. I think it's here. Let's take a look. Did they fix the bridge? Holy shit. Holy shit, they did. They actually fixed the bridge. It's been 6 months. They fixed it. This used to be a solid block. Now, as you can see, you can kind of adjust the camera. There we go. Yeah, they actually fixed it. This used to just be one solid block. Now you can actually drive through it. So they, 6 months, you fixed the bridge. Hot damn, that's amazing. So they did actually finally fix that one. That's something at least. You can dip it down into Mexico. It actually just teleports you out if you try. They got rid of the wall from the first game. Probably because, you know, the border wall became a thing. Let's teleport to here. That's another thing. I can't just... They took away the free exploring aspect of the game. In the first game, one of the great things to do, and this was great to do, is you had to explore the map. And once you did, okay, I want you to notice that like there's people like the name there, Gordon, Curtis, those aren't actually real players. The ones with the markings over them, those are real players. Like this is a real player. As you see, he's in the menu right now, or probably looking at the map to teleport away. Whereas these ones are fake players. And they had to put fake players in because there's some content in this game, screenshots and such, that require you to do things with other players. But because they took away the ability to play with other players, they had to include fake AI players for you to interact with, to do that with. Stuff like you had to take a picture of yourself passing one of those other players. Passing another player? Yeah, you had to do it to one of them now. Because fuck this game. Alright. But yeah, I was in this game since, actually from even the closed beta, I was in this game. Like I said, it wasn't a beta. They didn't fix the things back then. It was a stress test. They just called it a beta like so many fucking companies do these days. They didn't fix things, and I should have known then. I really should have known then that I didn't want to continue playing. But they limited the things. You didn't really get to see all the type of stuff back then. You got to see some of it. But... and it was already kind of bad. But the main thing I hate is they took away this. They have this giant... this is the world. This is the United States. They had this giant area. And in the first game, they would... I mean, you weren't totally encouraged to, but you had to at least drive out here, and you could actually spot any spot on the map that you've explored by driving through. You could just drop your car there and keep going. So, like, I'd been to this spot, I could just right here go, I want to go here. Drop it and go. You can't do that now. Now I can set a waypoint here, but unless it's at one of the objects... I can't just warp right to it. And there's no reason to drive out here anymore either. Because, okay, there's those live rewards. But the game, as I'm sure you saw while I was playing, the game constantly bugs you. Hey, you know you can open a map and go to events, right? Hey, you know you can go straight to the event, right? Hey, you know you don't have to be playing the game, right? You know you can do this. The game bugs you and tells you to stop playing it. Because if you don't play it their way, you're not actually playing the game. And when this game originally came out, there was no PvP. To this day, there really still isn't very much PvP. They finally did add it, but I'm not going to do it. It's fucking worthless. That's why I've got that bronze 4 there. I have no interest in playing it. Why would I? It's crap. But let me tell you some of the things they did wrong with this game. Okay, for one thing, that season pass is just cars. All it does is get you extra cars, and I think it might get you a discount for some of the other cars as well. But you can't actually... What's the word? Like, the content, the actual DLCs, there's no DLCs for this game. They've just been adding more content to it, i.e., trying to finish the incomplete game. And some of the stuff really is lacking. Let's go ahead and take a look right here. I'm going to go to the off-road one. I'm going to show you the difference here between... This is the street racing. Let's go to street racing. Enter. Now, when the game came out, this had 4 different specs. You had your street racing spec. This is your basic one. This is your most common type. And, well, you can see how many cars are here. And you notice it's taking a while to load the things. I'm getting down to the lower end ones here. And the ones that I have the little stripe on are ones that I own, because I actually do have a fair amount. All the way down from the Cadillac Eldorado, which I do kind of want to get my hands on. It's cheap enough. I could just straight up buy it. Here's my lowest one that I own, Harley Davidson, because they added that and gave it to me for free. Well, not for free. I paid for it, but... Yeah, so you see there's a huge number of vehicles down here, including some weird ones that got added later, like the Arrow back there. That's actually kind of cool. I like that they added it. Bundle? Really? Okay, let's view this bundle. Let's take a look at the fucking bundle. That was the wrong button. I'm used to Shantae now. Let's take a look at this bundle. What is this bundle they've got now? At least you can pay for it with in-game. Flaming Engine, Street Racing, Season Pass. I own that already. And that's why I get a discount on these to begin with. But can I see what this bundle is? I already have that. I think I might already have that. I'm not sure. And I already have that. So why the fuck would I buy this bundle? And it would charge me full price for the bundle, too. Well, okay, I get a discount if I buy a group of cars. Why do I care? Fuck the bundles. Anyway, let's go back to that, and I'll show you the list of cars that's here, how large it is. This is the street racing one. See, there it is. Wait, do I not have that Ferrari? Was it a different spec? Yeah, well, whatever. As you see, I have the high end here. That's the one I was driving out there. It's a nice car. There you have the drift vehicles. Now, these are awful. These are the same type of cars, only you can't control them. And you think I'm joking. The drift events in this, if you want drift racing, get a game that's designed for it. Like the crew, or not the crew, Grid. I'm not a huge fan of drifting, but at least Grid's drift mechanic works. This one, the drifting is so loose that it's really hard to control. And I've done the drifting stuff in this, but even then you can see, and I'll get into this perf level, the performance level. Oh, I'll get into that. I'm going to get into this game and why you should not buy it. The drifting in this just doesn't feel very fun. Like, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'll show you in a bit here. This is the worst, though, of the street racing specs. And again, I'll go ahead and show you. But this is drag racing, and these things, and there are not many cars in this. But it's just, like, they threw it in because they put it in the Wild Ones, in the Wild Run, excuse me, for the Crew 1. That's where these two come from. And I think they felt obligated to put it in here. Both of these are crap. They're just worthless. This is fun. Just general street racing. But they're really small tracks. Then you have Hypercar, which, again, it's fun, but I actually really kind of want that. That looks awesome. But I don't know, they've added some cars above mine and didn't give them to me. That's kind of sad. Like, this wasn't one of the cars added for the season pass. That makes me sad. It should have been. I'm gonna have to get this someday. I have this one. These races, though, are all really long. And one of the things that the Crew 1 had was the GPS. You could either put it like on the roadway or the overhead. I prefer the overhead, honestly. It's a better one, even though technically the one on the road is supposed to be better and more accurate. The overhead one, you can at least see where you're fucking going. In case you haven't noticed in this game, and I've been driving with the waypoint on, the waypoint is only down in the bottom corner map. Now, the developers have given all kinds of excuses for why they're too fucking lazy to do this. And their excuses are all bullshit. I'm going to say it right now. They are bullshit. Because they already have the code for this from the first game. Yeah, it would have to take a bit of reworking to put it into this game. It's been 6 months. They've had more than enough time. In fact, their time frame they claimed was that it would take 6 months to do. And then because of that, they weren't going to do it. Well, first off, I'm calling bullshit right there. Because as a programmer, no. Dude, you've already got base code that you can look at. You can look at the other code and convert it for this game. I guarantee you it would not take 6 months to do. You'd have to get the asset, maybe some asset change to get in, but you have everything you need to drop it in. Even if you have to change it up a bit, you already have the GPS in this game. You already have the technology for the over-the-road. You just don't want to do it. One of the other excuses they gave is, well, it takes your eyes off the scenery. You're supposed to be able to look at the scenery while you drive. Well, bullshit, because I'm looking at the bottom fucking corner. Because that's the only way to know where I'm turning. So they've made it so that in the long races, especially in the long races, where you'll be driving for like 5-10 minutes, and then there'll be a turn, and there's no fucking indication that there's a turn other than your mini-map down there. So you have to keep your eye on the mini-map to know where to turn. It is awful. It is fucking terrible. And are you making a liar out of me by going to nighttime? Are you actually going to nighttime right now? If I go out into the world, okay, well, it sounds like, because that's one of the things that I saw, was that they removed the day-night cycle, but no, here it is. It just suddenly went dark on me. So I have to take that back. This game made a liar out of me. Which I'm honestly glad that the night cycle is still in this. Because I like the dynamic change of it. Because especially now, they did fix it so it's brighter. As you see, I'm not... And I know it's only evening right now. But I can at least see the fucking street. It used to be so dark you couldn't see it. You'll notice that the headlights do nothing. Like, they're on right now. They highlight nothing. Absolutely nothing in front of you. It's awful. They are worthless. Okay, next. I showed you what's in this section. Let's see what off-road has. Oh no, even better. Let's see what freestyle has. Oh yeah. So here we go. Freestyle has 4 specs, one of which was just added. Jet Sprint. Now, they've already got a different boat racing. And as you see, they got all of 4 boats here. They already had one type of boat racing, power boating. But no, they needed a second one. So they threw in this just patch job bullshit thing where these boats are like, okay, they're meant that you can skim across a bit of land as well. They're basically swamp boats, except that they're not swamp boats because swamp boats would have the big fan in the back. But these are like the ones that they're meant to do on the bayou and such, that you can skim across little patches of land as well. And let me tell you, it is the fucking one of the worst. Okay, as far as the base game goes, this was the worst. I hated it. Absolutely hated racing it. Doesn't matter. There's only 4 fucking boats for it anyway. And how about monster trucks? That's their biggest selection, I think. And these things are, like I said, they're not races and all. The physics on these are just terrible because these are meant for like Tony Hawk style stuff. You go to this little arena and you do tricks off of things and collect coins. And that's how you do those events. You have, what is this one? Aerial acrobatics. Yeah, acrobatics. You go out in one of these planes and do tricks. And that's it. That's all you do. You just go out and do tricks. Now, it has some tricks that it tells you to try to get more score. But that's the entirety of it. And as you saw, there aren't many planes either. This shit was just thrown in with minimal thought, minimal fucking effort. But oh no. This is the worst. This is the worst one in the game now. And the only reason I even have this one is, despite the fact that they added these 5 cars, this one was considered one of the season pass cars. So I got it as part of the season pass, whereas everyone else would just have to buy it along with the others. Okay, why this one? Why is this the special one? Because it's not. Because all of these are basically the same. Except this one they decided to give the players the season pass for free so that so they can jump right into it. Okay, now demolition derbies. There have been many attempts at demolition derbies in games. In fact, there's a couple games that just are demolition derby. I have one of those, except my version uses the S3 Verge card. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The first hardware 3D decelerator. You see it in other games. Saints Row 2 had one, etc., etc. The main goal of Demolition Derby is to knock the other cars out of commission. The last car running wins. Let me show you what this game did for a demolition derby. Activities. Off-road, demolition derby. Which again, this was just added. This took 6 months of extra effort beyond the game's release itself. It was so important, so valuable, that they had to continue working on it to make sure they got it. Now, bullshit. They just are doing this out of obligation because they promised a year's worth of extra content to players. I.e., the game's not done. We're not happy with the amount of content in the game, so we're going to throw in even more half-assed content. Here we go. Here is their Demolition Derby. Yeah, I know. You just have to get to the starting grid of all of them, which sucks. Reach the top 3. Well, wait, top 3? What do you mean by that? Oh, you're getting points. Oh, a repair bonus appeared. Oh, what's this shit? What is this shit? Look at that fucking bumper there that just like pinball punts your car around. Oh, look, now a point bonus has appeared. And since points are the only thing that matter, you'd better go get that. Oh, look, a vehicle was destroyed. Oh, look, my vehicle was destroyed because I hit one of those thumper things. That costs me 5,000 points. You have 3 minutes to get as many points as possible. A damage bonus appears. And Floyd has picked that up. So whenever he hits someone, he's going to hit them even harder now. Look at how crappy this damage modeling is. And oh, this is the improved damage modeling that they had to do for this game. For the Demolition Derby. Yeah, this is the new, improved, higher end, more in-depth, more realistic damage model. This is the worst fucking excuse for Demolition Derby I have ever seen. This is fucking awful. I saw this and I knew this had to be the thing I showed today at the end of the year for being just how disappointing this is. Because this is the worst thing I've ever fucking seen. This is not a Demolition Derby. This is car pinball for points. It's not even fun arcade stuff like this.
Am I right?
Like, I wouldn't mind an arcadey Demolition Derby. I play Carmageddon. Carmageddon is one of my favorite fucking games. And one of the things you do in that is try to destroy your competition as much as possible. So that game, you can see, is all about Demolition Derby. And it's got power-ups and all kinds of unrealistic bullshit stuff. But it's fun. This is crap. I hate this. Yeah, I'd rather be in Rocket League. I really would. I'd rather do anything but this. Vehicle destroyed. Vehicle destroyed. Vehicle destroyed. I mean, it's over. I've only got 40 seconds. There's no fucking way I can make up the 50,000 fucking point gap in this. It's that bad.
That's a first step. Now show them how you dance.
That didn't even make the top 3. That is the worst fucking excuse for anything. Nobody should have to play this. Nobody should have to play this. The people who made this should be fucking ashamed of themselves for making something this shit. And I do mean shit. And I don't care if it hurts your feelings that you made a really, really half-assed, lackluster, slapped-on bullshit to an already bullshit game because you guys couldn't figure out how to even copy what made your first game successful. This is the last Ubisoft game that I'm ordering, especially ahead of time. Because, yeah, I pre-ordered this because I really liked the Crew 1. All you had to do was make the Crew 1 with some more cars. All you had to do was give us the same open world, the same MMO open world with people to let us just drive around the country and relax and cruise. Because the Crew 1 is the best cruising game out there, or at least it was, before they fucking broke it. And that should have been the sign. That even when they had it, they fucking broke it. Let's go take a look at the other areas in this. Let's go see what Off-Road has. This is another one that when the game started only had 3, whereas the others had 4. Now remember, they've promised us that there's going to be 2 more big updates. 1 in 3 months, 1 in 6 months. I have no hope for them. Oh yeah, there's also this. You see these guys? Up at the top of the board there, those 999s? Yeah, there's massive cheating in this game. Massive fucking cheating, exploiting, that they don't care about. And I mean, they really don't care about. Because even on the forums, when they said that, oh yeah, we'll look into it, the people who are exploiting, we'll look into it, we'll do something about it, go ahead and report them. That's one of the things they all kept saying. Report these players, we'll look into it. Report these players, we'll look into it. So I made a report. And I made a video of somebody who was doing exploits, who was doing something that even on the forums they said was, you know, improper use that they would look into, that we're supposed to report the players. I'm double checking my stats, my settings right now, because one of the things about the Crew was that it would fuck with your sound also. So I'm double checking to make sure that my sound hasn't been screwed with. And I'm going to have trouble doing this because I don't know where the fucking control panel is. There we go. There's the control panel. One of the things that the Crew 1 would also do was it would fuck with your sound settings. It would grab your microphone and put it all the way at max every time. And you couldn't turn it off. Okay, it has not adjusted my levels. That's good. That's good. And it wouldn't turn it off. It really wouldn't. I don't know why it tells me it's synchronizing my content right now. Because all I did was Alt-Tab out to do something, to close a window. And apparently the game now... I guess this is their anti-cheat now. Is that if you dare Alt-Tab out in a game that I am playing in a borderless window so that I can click off of it and do that. Anyway, so here's one of their off-roads. This is their main off-road one. Raid Rally. No, this is, excuse me, this is Rally Cross. Never mind. This is a different one. That's their version of motocross. Yeah, the Rally Cross. And oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. 4 fucking bikes for this, for motocross. Yeah, that was definitely something you really put a lot of work into it, isn't it? That was something you really wanted to have in the fucking game. 4 whole goddamn bikes. No, this is the main one. I like the fact that you can actually, like, turn them on and off on the display here. As you see, there's a fair number of them. So this is their main off-road one. And, yeah, these are fun. These are pretty good. You know, it's like the off-road spec in the first game. And I like it. I already have one of those. So I do like the fact that you can do stuff like this. I guess you can't because, you know, this, but... like when it's on display here, boom, I can turn the lights on and off and all that. But they added a fourth spec. This is the helicopter. This is what it usually looks like. When you've beaten all of the ones in this spec, you get this. And I've already done it, so I got the helicopter, which is cool. Where the fuck are we supposed to buy? There's the hovercrafts over here. Now, there used to be just one hovercraft in the game. It was a prize for the free play up there, which is ironic because, you know, the freestyle gives you the hovercraft, which has now become a rally event. And there's 4 more that you can buy. And it is just hovercraft racing, and in all honesty, it's not very fun. And now the last one. Let's show you this. This is the other one that got all the attention. Pro Racing. And I mean all the attention. Oh, you're going to love this. Because again, this is one of their ones that actually got attention. So we have the touring cars. This is the one that's one of the ones that has the most cars. This is your basic, this is your circuit spec, effectively, from the previous game. So these are your cars. There, you take them, and you're supposed to go to various race tracks with them and race around. And they can be a lot of fun. But they are your, you know, like I said, your circuit spec from the previous game. You've got Air Race, which is pretty much what it sounds like. These are, except that it's not. It's not that you're racing other people. This is a fucking time trial. And you know how I feel about time trial stuff. Like, you know, the checkpoint races. This is, you're supposed to hit a bunch of rings, turn around, hit a bunch of rings on the way back, turn around. You have to be aligned the right way. You have to go through the pillars the right way. You get bonus points. I hate it. I hate it so much. I just wanted an actual, you know, race. But no, they couldn't figure out how to get AI to race airplanes, I think. So they just did it that way. You also have this, the power boating race. And this is the most boats you're going to see. And as you see, again, there's not many. But once they had the idea, land, air, and sea, they felt obligated to put boats in. But then there's this. Oh my god, they added some. That's why that's in it now. I was wondering what the fuck that was. It used to be just these two. Literally, just these two. But as you can see, they've added a couple more now. They added the same fucking car twice. Just with a different paint job. Even worse than just adding the same car twice with a different paint job, it's a slight modification of one of the ones that was already in there. See, this is the 2017 version. This is the 2018 version. You can tell that Red Bull is sponsoring this game. Well, at least they fucking added 2 more. There used to only be the 2. Now there's 4 to catch up with the other ones. Yeah, the boat's a 6-wheeler. Just, you'll note that it's daytime again. That night cycle didn't actually happen. So it went into like evening and then came back into morning. It never went into night. It's daylight again. I don't know if it did it because I moved and they just really don't want there to be a night cycle, or if they did cut night out and just had it slightly dim and then come back up. Maybe they removed the night cycle and didn't know how to remove the morning and evening cycle. I wouldn't put that past them at this point. Yeah, the one that was added was the, and like I said, the prize car here. Where is it? It's just a high-tech car. There it is. It's just one of the hypercars. It's not even that special of one. This is an Aston Martin Vanquish, and it's honestly, like, not even that good compared to some of the other hypercars. Alright. One other thing I want to show. I'm going to head back to this place right here, this home. Only available. This is for the gold edition. Otherwise, you got to go to the one in Florida. Yeah. They are the exact same thing. Watch this. We'll enter this one, right? And you see the car on display. You've got my Alpha Mark II, which was, again, the highest car at the time. You've got my super slick speedboat there. And because I wanted an air vehicle, I wanted the one that shows off the only helicopter in the game. You also have, as you earn your way through the game, multiple floors. I'm going to go down to the garage. Now, it used to be that this reset every time. They had this beautiful display floor that you couldn't display anything in. Because every time you left and came back, it would reset. At least they fixed that so that you can actually put what you want on the display out here. They also ruined the mirror shine. In the Crew 1, this was actually fucking chrome. The entire thing was mirror shined. This is the closest thing they have to that anymore. So I don't even get my horribly ugly mirror shined Humvee. That's the best I can do. That's a serious disappointment. Because I loved how terrible that car was. At least you can do custom liveries. Such as... Well, where's my photo mode? Where is the photo mode? There we go. The General Lee here. And yes, this is actually the appropriate car. Although I do have the wrong hood on it. I will admit that. This livery here, I created it. The day this game came out and on the pre-launch, I earned this car and I sat trying to make this as good as I can. Let me tell you, this outlines here, you can't actually outline the damn letters. To do this, I had to make larger versions of the letters, or in the case of these, larger and smaller versions of the letters. So these things aren't outlined that well. That's as good as I can do. It really was. It was a lot of effort to do this. But I'm surprised this hasn't been flagged yet for having the Confederate flag on it, which, again, it's not lined up properly. The stars aren't quite right, but that was the best that I could do. I honestly figured that other people would make better ones, and they did. Because if we do this, you go to the library, you go to the top 100, right? Mine's number 1. I have the highest download count. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. So yeah, my General Lee there is the number 1. As you see, other people have done other General Lees. And mine's, at least, I tried to be as accurate as possible. So like this one used black up there to try to hide it. Here's another one that, honestly, I think this is probably the better one. I really do. So I figured that other people would make better General Lees than mine. But I guess most people saw that mine existed, and that's why I did it. As you see, like the day these were made, 7/7, 6/30. This was made, where is it? 6/29. Somebody made that one a couple days after mine. 6/28. 6/26. Mine was the first, and it was the first livery for this car put up. It was the first, and it's still the most popular. I'm proud of that. Even though I was just copying someone else's design, honestly. It's the General Lee. I didn't make it. I just copied the General Lee. But I love it. I'm glad that it exists. I think I did some other custom liveries for other cars, but I don't know where they are right now. They're not on display. I just kind of put whatever was up on display. Oh yeah, I have one. I'll go show it. Let's exit this. So yeah, there we go. Now, you'd think that with two different... I'll show this one because it's fucking stupid. You would think that with two different... two different headquarters, that they'd be different, right? They could do different things with them. Same interior, same thing on design there. And here they're fucking literally running a commercial for the... That's the intro video for this thing. Now, one thing is, as you're playing the game, this area does level up. It starts to look nicer and nicer, and that's how you get the extra floors here as well. Okay, I stand corrected. These, again, used to be linked. So they'd have the exact same ones on both sides. I stand corrected. They actually did fix that. I'm glad they fixed things. I still hate this game. So let me show you this car that I made here. I'll go ahead and put it on display. This was, I was making fun of a friend who was, we were talking about Vipers versus Corvettes. Now, I want you to take a look at that symbol there. I had to make that piece by freaking piece. That Corvette symbol. You can see how detailed it is. And it's getting dark again. What the fuck? You can see how detailed that symbol is. That took a lot of effort to make that work. But I did it. So I made this, and yeah, the Corvette killer. It is so dumb. Rip vet. Yeah, that was just, I was making fun of a friend at the time. And so I made that custom livery. You can do impressive things with it. You really can. And I hope that's one of the only things I actually do like about this is the custom liveries and the fact that you can cover a car with dicks. Of course, that's one of the reasons you can't see the other players. Like, yeah, I could cover a car with dicks and go block somebody, make the cock blocker, but there's no one to play with, so there's no point in doing it. This game is crap. This year has been kind of crap, to be honest. Like, this year, all the AAA companies were at a race for the bottom. EA, with their loot boxes, to the point where they are literally intentionally breaking the fucking law in Belgium. Belgium has declared that the loot boxes are gambling, and they want them removed from the video games. EA took a hard stance. With their FIFA game, they said, fuck you, Belgium. We're putting loot boxes in. We're selling them here. Come get us, bro. So we're in a year where Electronic Arts will literally violate the law knowingly in order to try to squeeze more money out of their players. We're in a year where Ubisoft... Fucking... God, what did they do? I can't even remember all the shit going on. These games have been... These instances have been so bad. I'm trying to find one of my cars right now. This is the car I want to put on display. Where is it? Where's my Hellcat? Where's my Hellcat? God damn it. Oh, there it is. I like this one. Simple design, but I really like the way this one came out. Which, you know, if I go to photo mode and settings, I can change the time of day. This is 11 o'clock and it's this fucking dark. Yeah, as you can see, okay, there's the only night cycle. Because here it is. Fucking 10. This is 10 o'clock at night. 10:30, 11 it gets dark. 11:30, midnight, and we're back to day. They did get rid of the goddamn day-night cycle. Holy shit. But yeah, it's a nice, simple design. I just love the way this car looks. I love the way that car looks. That is amazing. But yeah, Ubisoft. God, what did they do? Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. We're going to release 8 different versions of our games. More and more expensive package with more and more stuff. You know, you have the Ultimate Edition and then 3 editions above it. But even then, you don't get all the content in the game. Because even then, you got to go to the grocery store and pick up the special branded pizza rolls that have exclusive content. And don't forget to buy the special branded Google Alexa. Or Amazon Alexa, I think. Just, oh my God. The fucking corporate whoring from Ubisoft is insane this year. And of course, the games have more and more they're getting grindier and grindier in order to force you to buy the microtransactions. They're actively ruining the games. And they've admitted this. Like the biggest examples, EA, Warner Brothers, Battlefront 2, they had to go back and alter things once they took the loot boxes out. They had to alter how long the grind was because it was just unattainable. The same thing with Shadow of War. When they took out the loot boxes for the orcs, they had to completely rebalance the game for them being gone, that you couldn't purchase them anymore. This tells you that they absolutely fucked the game's balance, intentionally fucked the game's balance in order to make you pay for these microtransactions. That's this year. Well, that was technically last year, but they finally fixed, unquote, it this year. And of course, Warner Brothers. This is the company. Actually, I think, did the game come out this year? Let me just quickly look this up to see if Shadow of War came out this year. No, it came out 2017. Okay, so this isn't part of the 2018 fuckery, but it's still pretty bad. And again, I alt-tabbed out, so we got to make sure you didn't hack anything. Fuck you, Ubisoft. Again, I have this set to full screen, windowless, borderless, so that I can do that. And now every time I do it, it goes, let's make sure you didn't hack anything. Which, you know, I'm at least glad that they did do some anti-cheat finally. Anyway, Shadow of War. Shadow of War, they had one with Humble Bundle, where Warner Brothers had a bundle. And part of the bundle was to pre-order Shadow of War. Now, as you know, with Humble Bundle, you can set the percentage, how much goes to charity, how much goes to Humble Bundle, how much goes to the game company. And if you bought that tier that had the Shadow of War in it, there was this note that you had to actually expand the text. It wasn't even on the screen until you expanded the text. There was this little note at the bottom that said, if you bought this tier, that Warner Brothers would just straight up take $60 off the top of your charity donation. They would take $60 off the top and then spread out the remaining based on the percentages that you did. Warner Brothers was stealing from charity for Shadow of War. But that was 2017. I don't think they made it in the bad list this year. And that was, of course, after also they told the PC players for Mortal Kombat 10, Mortal Kombat X, even after telling them, no, the PC is going to get its full support, we're not giving it a half-assed version, we're doing it, when they were doing the balance patch and for the XL for Combat Pack 2, Warner Brothers announced PC players weren't getting any further support. They weren't going to get Combat Pack 2, they weren't going to get the updated code for the networking that they were fucked. Now, mind you, they did go back and reverse this decision, but they took me, one of the lifelong fans. This is another thing that's been going on, god damn it, lately. I love Mortal Kombat. I've loved Mortal Kombat since the fucking beginning. I'm a lifelong fan of Mortal Kombat. I don't know if I'm buying the new one. I know I'm not fucking pre-ordering it. Not after what they did to me. Not after what they did with Mortal Kombat 10. Warner Brothers completely soured my impression of them and of the series. I don't want to play it. I haven't been able to really play Mortal Kombat 10 since then. I never finished Injustice because I was in the middle of Injustice. They fucked me on that. And I know they did eventually reverse it, but that still leaves such a bad taste in my mouth that Warner Brothers treats their fans like that. That Electronic Arts treats their fans the way they do. That Activision Blizzard, when they had the conference, and this is again this year, their big BlizzCon conference, you know, the one for their PC gamers, the ones that their most dedicated fan base fucking paid to go to. And their big hype game was Diablo Immortal, which they've outsourced to a Chinese company that was making a Chinese Diablo knockoff anyway. So they decided to cash in on it because they can't get China to stop. Because China doesn't honor international copyright laws. They just don't. So already you have that problem. And instead of doing anything about it, they just decided, no, we're just going to hire you guys to make the game and then announce it at the BlizzCon as our big hype event. And then they wondered why nobody was happy with them. Stop doing business with China. Just stop. Look at how many times China's burned Apple. Oh God, like right now Apple can't even sell iPhones there because they're violating Chinese copyrights and patents. Where did those patents come from? They came from Apple. They came from people literally walking the stuff out of Apple's factory to another place to start making clones. And then those clones get patented because, you know, Apple's not a Chinese company. They can't make patents in China. And now that there's this patent on Apple technology in China, Apple's being told they can't sell their phones there anymore. Why has Apple been doing business with China for years? How many times they burned them? Why do the video game companies do it? What's the next? What's the other bad one this year? So like I said, you had Activision, and then of course you had the whole Destiny. I don't know how many disasters there's been with Destiny 2. To the point where they were giving Destiny 2 away for free. Literally, Activision gave Destiny 2 away for free. Of course, you can't do any of the endgame content because you need the expansion packs. And don't forget, you know, you got to get the loot drops, the random loot boxes that are very limited. You can only get so many unless you buy them. You can't even get all the special limited event stuff unless you pay for them because you literally cannot get enough boxes to get all the content. Even if everything dropped perfectly, you cannot earn enough boxes for free with the content. You have to pay for some. Oh, and your inventory space is limited, so you better use it up. You can't save the colors for the things that you want, even though that was part of the previous game. They took that out of the previous game and put it behind a paywall now. So Activision's been trying to fuck Activision Blizzard. Oh yeah, and of course they're banning people for games for saying things. Again, now it's based on China stuff. They also dropped the esports for HOTS without bothering to tell their esports players, you know, the people who are making their living playing this game. They didn't bother telling any of them that they were dropping it, support for it. They just decided to drop it. Overwatch is a mess right now. Of course, a lot of the Overwatch players went to Fortnite anyway, so Blizzard is just, and I hate seeing that, but Activision is killing Blizzard. Blizzard was a fucking monolith that was one of the best game companies out there because they would not bother releasing a game unless they felt it was perfect, unless they really felt good with it. They canceled many projects that were subpar because they could afford it, because they were Blizzard, because they were making the money. They were making the games that people wanted to buy. Now, Blizzard is going to shit thanks to Activision. They're killing it. And this is one of the things that the CEOs of these companies are doing everything they can to get the profit now. And they don't care about down the road. They want the money right fucking now, and they will destroy the company to get it. And that's happening all over the industry. Warner Brothers, their excuse is they're not a video game company. They're a movie company. They don't understand how video games work. They literally don't. That's why their PC versions are so bad, because they're pawning them off to the lowest bidder, and lo and behold, the lowest bidders aren't very good at what they're doing. But Warner Brothers doesn't care, because they're not a video game company. So they don't understand that. What the hell is EA's excuse? What's Blizzard's excuse? What's Activision's excuse? The other excuse now is, well, we have to be beholden to the money makers, to the stock market, to our shareholders, because we have this money. You know, they have to make more money. And that's the thing. They need to make more money this year than they did last year, even though they've been making record fucking sales. One of the most successful games in history. 500,000 sales in the first 3 days. It's underperforming. Or $500 million in the first 3 days, but that's underperforming. So their stocks go down. So they need to try to squeeze more money out of you. And I hate companies that do that, because I've seen great games ruined. Cloud Pirates. This is why I don't do the free-to-play updates anymore, because the games keep changing so much that my free-to-play reviews are all worthless now, because the game mechanics are all changed in all these games. Cloud Pirates. I loved this game. I was so psyched for this game. I bought into this game early. I bought the high-end pack early on, because I really liked this game. When it went live, it went pay to win. Hardcore pay to win. And the player base just left it. And it died. The game doesn't exist anymore. Within like 6 months of release of this very promising game, it was a lot of fun. They could have had a real winner on their hands, because they weren't making enough money right away. They put in pay to win and got an influx of cash and lost all their players, and then they stopped making money again, and so the game died. And this is going to happen all over the fucking industry. You're going to see this everywhere. You're going to see games that had potential just get them wrung out to get the immediate money now, and then kill the game when it stops making money. And of all the bad companies this year, Ubisoft, EA, Activision, all these companies racing for the bottom, fucking Bethesda swoops in at the last minute and says, no, I got this. And they do. They are the worst company this year. If you have been following, like I said, this is why I didn't buy Fallout 76. I knew from the beginning it would be bad, but I didn't think it would be this bad. I didn't think that Bethesda would be this incompetent on literally every fucking level. To the point where they at one point were looking at 3 lawsuits against them. Now, they've managed to stave off at least the canvas bag one, because they started offering canvas bags, which they had to. They decided to go with nylon bags because they were cheaper, but all the advertising, even after the game was released with the nylon bags, all the advertising said canvas bag. That's false advertising. That straight up was an illegal bait and switch. They had to. They had their hands tied. They were forced to give out the canvas bags. But the Nuka Rum deal, Nuka Dark, where people were paying $80 not for the alcohol, but for the bottle, for that novelty bottle that was in all the promotions, that it was even in the description that you got this novelty bottle. Well, they decided that making a glass one was too expensive. So what they did is they took a regular bottle of alcohol and just put it in a plastic clamshell, because that was cheaper. That's certainly worth $80, right? And if you try pouring it out of this, well, because there's a gap between the plastic clamshell and the actual bottle inside, when you try pouring the alcohol out, it just spills into the fucking clamshell. So now you've got the clamshell with the alcohol around it on the outside of the actual cheap bottle of booze that people were paying $80 for. And this got delayed. Bethesda can't do anything right now. I already knew Bethesda didn't know what made Fallout. But my God, it's another giant of the companies that's being killed by just incompetent mismanagement, trying to cut every corner they can to squeeze every dollar right now. They need to have every dollar now. Fuck the future. Give me money now. You have to work for the future. Now, fortunately, there's been a lot of... I told you today would be rants. I fucking told you today would be rants. Fortunately, though, there's good news in the world. You see, it's easier than ever for independent people to make games and get them out there, thanks to Steam. Epic is opening up their stuff as well. so you can hopefully see more of them on there. And this is good. This is competition. Now, I would prefer that the companies release on both systems. They don't limit themselves to one. But it's good to have competition. And there are a lot of independent games, and I know a lot of them don't get enough attention. I really wish I could highlight some. There are billions. That is a great game. Look at that. Pixel Junk Monsters 2 came out this year. It is a beautiful game with claymation artwork that is absolutely gorgeous. It is a really fun tower defense game. The game I highlighted last year, Dead Cells, finally the full version released, and universal acclaim. This game is amazing. So there's opportunities out there on the indie market. Unfortunately, the ease of getting these indie games out there means there's a lot of shit. You have to wade through all kinds of crap that's out there. But I think overall this is a positive. I think it's a net positive. I think we'll start seeing some actual independent games being made by people who want to make games, who aren't just in it for the quick buck. I think there's still potential out there. I hope there's still potential out there. I hope to God that I think honestly we are going to see the big companies start to crumble because they're killing themselves. They're destroying their future. They are absolutely destroying any goodwill they had. I won't pre-order another Ubisoft game after this. I haven't bought an EA game in years. I'm still, I've got my eye on Blizzard, but it's not an automatic purchase anymore. It's just not. Whatever their next game is, I will have to think long and hard if I actually want to buy it. And to say that about Blizzard is just heartbreaking. But there are other options out there. Deltarune, that one's coming. Keep an eye on that. Toby Fox, maker of Undertale. It's kind of a spiritual successful, or maybe a sequel or prequel to Undertale. There's definite connections there. Keep an eye out for that one. So what's 2019 going to bring? Am I still going to be angry? Oh, hell yes. I'm going to be very angry. I can tell I've gotten a lot quieter right now. Yeah, I've kind of blown my voice out yelling today. I'm going to break some of my rules. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to break one of my rules for 2019. There's going to be a roleplay game, at least one, probably a couple, on a main stream. I know, after Magna Carta, it's a bad idea, but there's a couple I really want to look at. I think that's the only way I'm going to. Tear. Oh, maybe. I doubt it. I doubt we'll see that in 2019. There are still some games that I've been holding back. I know I finally got a chance to play Chasm the Rift, and I'm thankful for it. There's at least one game that I've been holding on to since I started the streaming. And I've been holding on to it because the only way that I can actually get it to run is at low resolution than I really want it to. It's at a lower resolution because the game needs a version of DirectX that is just not compatible anymore in order to run the high res. But I think I will finally manage to dig that one out and play it. I've picked up stuff on other platforms, on GOG. I have access to a used game store for console stuff. So expect to see some of that content. I picked up Neopets. We played that. I picked up another game, which I haven't looked at yet on stream. It's part of a theme. I'll look at that one. We'll see that this year. I'm going to play Sin. Definitely going to play Sin. Because I have an idea to do more of an expansion thing. There's a specific Doom content I want to do. We'll see that one this year. I'm not going away. I'll be angry. I'll still play bad games. I'll play some good games. I'm not going to promise Terror of the Deep, but we might see it. I know it's going to be a long and painful one, but we'll see what this year has to bring. There will be more modern games as well. I will probably end up playing a lot of more modern controller-based 3D action games, just because the first-person shooter genre is largely dead. I hate to say it. I did pick up some more. I picked up some of the newer ones that are mediocre. When I was playing Chasm the Rift, someone came with a list, and I picked up a few of the titles on that list. I did. They're not good at all, but we'll take a look at them. But like right now, first-person shooters, I took a look at a list of first-person shooters released by year, and I loved the 90s, even the crappy ones. I played so many of them. In the last 5 or 6 years, the only one that I've liked has been Doom. Yeah, let's go ahead and log out of this. That's literally the only one I cared about all year. Even my controller died. It was been sitting too long. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Doom Eternal. That is one that I will probably pre-order like an idiot, because that one in particular hasn't burned me yet. Doom surprised me, in fact. And if they'll do the same thing for this one, for the next one, then I'm all for it. Where's the logout button? Oh, right. It's... God, where is the logout button? No. God, I forget. There we go. Quit game. There we go. Don't buy the Crew 2. It is absolute crap. It is garbage. It has some of the worst, like the worst demolition derby I've ever seen. I'll see you next year, Internet. GDC is coming up January 6th. I will be taking, of course, my break during that. I want to fucking watch it. I think you guys should too. But I am going to have something tomorrow, something stupid. I don't know yet. I might not. Who knows? I might just be too angry. My voice might be gone. Take care, Internet. Enjoy the games you play.